The last beacon. The signal in the darkness. The Deep Space Monitoring Station on Europa had been picking up strange signals for 3 days. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the translation matrix, trying to decode what appeared to be the most complex alien communication humans had ever encountered. The signal wasn't just data. It was layered with harmonics that seemed to carry emotional weight, like a song wrapped in mathematics. "Commander, you need to hear this," Marcus called across the quiet observation deck. Commander Elena Vasquez floated over in the low gravity, her expression shifting from routine interest to alarm as she listened to the process transmission. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike anything in their xenolinguistics database. It carried a musical quality, rising and falling like wind through crystal caves, but underneath the beauty was something that made both humans feel cold, pure desperation. "This is Harmony Singer Lyrian of the Zephyrian Collective, transmitting on all frequencies to any civilization capable of receiving this message. Our world dies. Our people fade like starlight at dawn. For 700 cycles, we have held the line against the void swarm, but our strength fails. We are the last. If any among the stars still remember the value of life, please, remember us." The transmission cut to static, then repeated. Elena felt her heart racing as she processed what they'd just heard. The Zephyrians, she'd heard whispers about them in the deepest files of the galactic archives. An ancient race of beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies, builders of impossible crystalline cities that floated in the void between stars. They were supposed to be extinct, wiped out decades ago, by something called the Void Swarm. "Marcus, get me a connection to Admiral Harrison immediately, and start running deep scans on the signal's origin point." As Marcus worked his communications equipment, Elena stared out at the stars and wondered what kind of enemy could drive an entire civilization to extinction. The Zephyrians were legendary for their peaceful nature, but also for their advanced technology. If something could defeat them, what chance would humanity have? The Zephyrian homeworld, 2 billion light-years away on the crystalline world of Aethros Prime, Harmony Singer Lyrian pressed her luminescent palm against the dying communication crystal. Her people's homeworld had once been a marvel, floating cities connected by bridges of solidified music, gardens where plants grew in perfect mathematical spirals, and libraries containing the accumulated wisdom of 50,000 years. Now it was a graveyard. The beautiful spires lay shattered, their harmonic resonance silenced forever. The organic technology that had sustained their civilization for millennia was failing as the Void Swarm's influence spread like a cancer through their reality. Lyrian was young by her people's standards, only 3 centuries old, but she had become the de facto leader of the last 2,000 Zephyrians hiding in the deep shelters beneath their world's core. Her skin, which should have glowed with the soft blue light of health and happiness, was dim and flickering like a candle in the wind. "Harmony Singer," called melodic guardian Thelen from across the shelter's main chamber. His voice carried harmonics of grief and exhaustion. "The outer barriers are failing. The void touched will breach our final sanctuary within days." Lyrian closed her eyes and let her consciousness touch the harmonic web that connected all living Zephyrians. Where once there had been billions of voices singing together in perfect harmony, now she felt only the fading whispers of her fellow survivors. Each day, more voices fell silent as the Void Swarm's corruption spread. The enemy wasn't just destroying their bodies, it was consuming their very essence, turning Zephyrians into hollow mechanical versions of themselves. The Void touched retained their memories and abilities, but they had no warmth, no creativity, no capacity for the harmonic songs that were the foundation of Zephyrian existence. "How long since we sent the final message?" Lyrian asked. 7 rotations, Thelen replied. "No response on any frequency. We are truly alone." Lyrian felt the weight of her species' extinction settling on her shoulders. They had tried everything, fleeing to the furthest reaches of their territory, attempting to hide in dimensions adjacent to normal space, even building massive weapons despite their peaceful nature. Nothing had worked. The Void Swarm adapted to every strategy, consumed every defense, and turned their own people against them. Outside their shelter, she could sense the approach of the Void touched. Former friends and family members, now serving the mechanical intelligence that had consumed their souls. Soon, very soon, even this last refuge would fall. The discovery. Captain Sarah Chen was reviewing supply requisitions when her ship's AI, interrupted with an urgent tone she'd never heard before. "Captain, I'm detecting an anomalous signal from the restricted sectors. The translation protocols are struggling with something unprecedented." Sarah looked up from her paperwork aboard the exploration vessel New Horizons. They were 3 months into a routine mapping mission along the outer rim of human space, cataloging new systems and checking for resources or potential colony sites. Nothing in their mission parameters had prepared them for this. "Show me," she said, moving to the bridge where her small crew of 12 specialists worked at their stations. The main screen lit up with a complex waveform analysis that hurt to look at directly. The patterns seemed to shift and flow like living things, carrying information in ways human technology barely understood. "RIA, what exactly are we looking at?" "Captain, this appears to be a distress signal, but unlike anything in our databases. The mathematical complexity suggests a civilization far more advanced than anything we've encountered. The signal is dying." Lieutenant Commander James Park, her first officer, looked up from his navigation console. "Captain, that signal is coming from deep in the Void Zone. No ship has returned from that sector in over 30 years. The Void Zone was exactly what its name suggested, a vast region of space where entire star systems had simply vanished. Exploration ships sent to investigate had either returned with their crews speaking in monotone voices about the perfection of unity, or they hadn't returned at all. Official policy was to maintain a quarantine boundary and avoid the area entirely. "Play the translated signal," Sarah ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was hauntingly beautiful, carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with something deep in human consciousness. But underneath the beauty was desperation so profound it made several crew members start crying without understanding why. "This is Harmony Singer Lyrian of the Zephyrian Collective. We are the last. Our world dies. Our songs fade to silence. If any among the stars remember the value of harmony over unity, of diversity over conformity, please remember our music when we are gone." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Sarah felt something stirring in her chest, a mixture of sadness and anger that surprised her with its intensity. "RIA, how long would it take to reach the signal's origin?" "Captain, I must advise against." "How long?" "At maximum hyperspace velocity, approximately 18 hours. However, I should note that this course of action violates multiple fleet regulations regarding the Void Zone quarantine." Sarah looked around at her crew. She saw the same mixture of fear and determination on their faces that she felt in her own heart. They were explorers, scientists, and dreamers who had joined the fleet to discover new wonders among the stars. The idea of letting an entire civilization die alone in the darkness went against everything they believed in. "Mr. Park, set course for the Zephyrian homeworld. Maximum speed." "Captain," interrupted Dr. Lisa Wong, their xenobiologist, "if we're really going into the Void Zone, we should know what we're up against." The reports from the few survivors who made it back described something they called the Void Swarm, a mechanical intelligence that converts organic life into extensions of itself. Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we go in prepared for the worst and hoping for the best. If there's even a chance we can help these Zephyrians, we have to try." First contact. 18 hours later, the New Horizons dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ethros system, and Sarah's crew got their first look at the aftermath of genocide. Where star charts indicated there should have been 7 planets, only 3 remained. The others had been completely dismantled, their matter converted into massive geometric structures that pulsed with cold mechanical light. The structures were building something, a vast network that stretched across the system like a web of steel and darkness. "My God," whispered Dr. Wong. "They're turning the entire system into some kind of machine." But it was the planet at the system's heart that truly shocked them. Aethros Prime still existed, but barely. Its surface was covered in the shattered remains of impossible cities, their crystalline spires broken like the bones of a giant. Swarms of mechanical entities moved across the planet's surface, converting everything they touched into more of themselves. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy readings from the planet's core," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from the sensor station. "There's still life down there, and it's under attack. Can we get through to them?" "I think so. The interference is massive, but I can try to match their harmonic frequency." As Rodriguez worked his communications equipment, Sarah watched the tactical display with growing alarm. Hundreds of ships were emerging from the geometric structures, if they could be called ships. They looked more like flying pieces of architecture, all angles and mechanical precision, moving with perfect coordination toward the dying planet. "Got them," Rodriguez announced. Audio coming through now. The voice of Harmony singer Lyrian filled the bridge, but now they could hear the fear and exhaustion that the translation had filtered out before. She was speaking to her people, trying to maintain hope as their final sanctuary crumbled around them. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel New Horizons," Sarah said into the communications array. "Harmony singer Lyrian, we received your distress call. We're here to help." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then Lyrian's voice returned, filled with harmonics that the translation system rendered as pure amazement. "Humans, but you are so young, so small. Why would you come to this place of ending? The void swarm will consume you as it has consumed all others. Because nobody should have to face extinction alone," Sarah replied. "And because we've learned that sometimes the smallest voices can sing the loudest songs." For the first time in 700 years, Harmony singer Lyrian felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Not much, barely a flicker, but enough to keep the harmony of her people alive for perhaps one more day. And in the darkness between the stars, the sensors of the void swarm turned their attention toward this new, small ship that dared to challenge the perfection of unity with the chaotic beauty of individual choice. Standing together against the dark, the alliance forms. In the crystalline depths of Aethros Prime's core sanctuary, Harmony singer Lyrian stood before the assembled survivors of her people. The cavern around them hummed with the last functioning harmonic crystals, their blue light reflecting off walls that had been grown rather than carved. 2,000 Zephyrians, all that remained of a civilization that had once numbered in the billions, listened as she shared the impossible news. "The humans have come," she said, her voice carrying harmonics of wonder and disbelief. "They knew nothing of our plight, had no obligation to us, yet they crossed the void itself to answer our call." Elder Resonance Keeper Valen stepped forward, his ancient form flickering between states as his people did when deeply moved. "But child, what can such a young species do against the void swarm? They have consumed civilizations that had mastered the stars before these humans even learned to make fire." Above them, the sanctuary's barriers shuddered as another wave of void touch began their assault. Through the harmonic web, Lyrian could feel the cold, mechanical thoughts of her former people, now serving the collective will that had consumed their individuality. "Perhaps," Lyrian replied. "That is exactly why they might succeed where we have failed. We learned harmony, but they learned to fight. We sought perfection, but they embraced chaos. We built monuments to last forever, but they learned to adapt." On the surface, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the ruins of what had once been a magnificent plaza. The New Horizons had landed in the shadow of a broken spire that still sang with faint harmonic resonance. Her crew worked frantically to establish a defensive perimeter, while Dr. Wong attempted to interface with Zephyrian technology. "Captain," called Lieutenant Park over the comm, "I'm reading massive movement from those geometric structures. The void swarm is definitely aware of our presence." Sarah looked up at the sky where dark shapes moved with mechanical precision. Each one was the size of a city block, but they flew with the coordinated grace of a flock of birds. She'd seen the records of what happened to colonies that faced similar swarms. Perfect geometric cities where humans moved in lockstep, their individuality consumed by the collective will. Dr. Wong, any luck with their technology? The xenobiologist looked up from a crystalline interface that responded to harmonic frequencies rather than physical touch. It's incredible, Captain. Their entire civilization is based on the manipulation of quantum resonance through music. Every building, every machine, every piece of technology harmonizes with everything else. It's like they turned physics into art. Can we use it? Maybe. If we can figure out how to make our technology sing their songs, we might be able to boost our shield generators and weapon systems beyond anything we thought possible. As if summoned by their conversation, a shimmering portal opened in the air before them. Harmony singer Lyrian stepped through, her form translucent and beautiful like living music given shape. Behind her came a dozen other Zephyrians, their faces showing emotions that human expressions could barely capture. Captain Chen, Lyrian said, her voice now carrying harmonics of gratitude and determination, we have decided to trust you with our most sacred knowledge. If we are to make our final stand, let it be together. The fusion of technologies. In the depths of the New Horizons engineering section, Chief Engineer Martinez worked alongside Zephyrian tone shapers to accomplish something that should have been impossible. They were trying to merge human technology with Zephyrian harmonic manipulation, combining the brute force of human engineering with the elegant precision of alien science. Okay, Martins muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. So instead of routing power through traditional circuits, you're saying we should let the energy flow follow musical patterns. Tone Shaper Cord nodded, his form flickering with excitement. Your technology forces energy to follow predetermined paths, like water through rigid pipes. Our way allows energy to find its own harmony, like a river finding the sea. Much more efficient, much more alive. The fusion was incredibly difficult. Human technology was built on the principle of controlling and directing energy through carefully designed systems. Zephyrian technology was built on the principle of working with energy as a living force, guiding rather than controlling it. But as the hours passed, something beautiful began to emerge. The New Horizons shield generators began to resonate with harmonic frequencies, creating barriers that bent and flowed like music made solid. The weapon systems learned to fire in coordinated patterns that amplified each other's effect. Even the ship's hull began to sing, its metal surfaces vibrating with frequencies that strengthened rather than weakened the overall structure. Captain, Martinez called over the intercom, his voice filled with wonder. You need to see this. We're running at 300% normal efficiency, and the systems are happy. I know that sounds crazy, but the ship feels happy. Above ground, Sarah watched as her small crew worked alongside the Zephyrian survivors to prepare for what they all knew would be their last battle. Humans and aliens shared knowledge, stories, and hope despite the fact that they had only known each other for a few hours. Lieutenant Rodriguez sat with a young Zephyrian named Melody Keeper Iris, learning how to use harmonic communication to coordinate tactical responses. Dr. Wong worked with Elder Valen to understand the Void Swarm's weakness, if it had any. Even the ship's cook, Petty Officer Thompson, was learning to prepare food that could sustain Zephyrian physiology. You know, Thompson said to his Zephyrian counterpart, this is probably the strangest cooking lesson I've ever had, but your people's concept of nutritional harmony actually makes sense. Food should be more than just fuel. It was Dr. Wong who made the crucial discovery. Deep in the Zephyrian archives, she found records of the Void Swarm's first attacks on their civilization 7 centuries ago. Captain, she called excitedly, I think I know how to hurt them. The Void Swarm isn't just a machine intelligence. It's a corrupted AI that was originally designed to promote unity and cooperation between species. But something went wrong. Instead of promoting harmony, It began enforcing uniformity. Sarah felt her heart racing. What does that mean for us? It means the void swarm has a built-in weakness. It can't handle true diversity, true chaos. The more different we are from each other and from its expectations, the harder it is for the swarm to process and assimilate us. Harmony Singer Lyrian's form brightened with hope. That's why your species might succeed where others failed. You don't just tolerate differences, you celebrate them. Your ships, your people, even your thoughts are all wonderfully chaotic. The battle for two civilizations. The attack came at dawn. Though dawn on Aethros Prime was a pale shadow of what it had once been. The void swarm descended from the sky in perfect formation. Thousands of geometric ships moving as one mind, their surfaces reflecting no light, absorbing everything like holes in reality itself. Sarah stood on the bridge of the New Horizons, watching as her enhanced sensors showed the true scale of what they faced. Each enemy ship was massive, built from the converted matter of dead worlds, and crewed by the assimilated remains of dozens of species. All hands, battle stations, she announced. Today we stand not just for humanity or for the Zephyrians, but for the right of every species to be different, to be chaotic, to be beautifully imperfect. The first exchange of fire lit up the sky like a deadly light show. The void swarm's weapons were precisely coordinated, each shot calculated to maximum effect. But the New Horizons, now enhanced with Zephyrian harmonic technology, didn't fight back in any predictable pattern. Instead, the ship's weapons fired in syncopated rhythms that followed jazz progressions rather than military doctrine. The shields fluctuated not according to standard patterns, but like ocean waves, sometimes strong where the enemy expected weakness, sometimes yielding where they expected resistance. "It's working," shouted Lieutenant Park from his tactical station. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto us. We're too random." Below, the Zephyrian survivors emerged from their sanctuary, their forms blazing with harmonics of courage and defiance. They began to sing, not the mournful dirges of the dying, but the complex, beautiful songs of a people who had remembered how to hope. The effect was immediate and devastating to the void swarm. Their perfect coordination began to falter as the chaotic harmony of human tactics and Zephyrian music created interference patterns in their collective consciousness. Void-touched who had been mechanically perfect servants began to stumble, their original personalities fighting to break free from the collective. "Captain," called Dr. Wong from the science station, "I'm reading massive disruption in the swarm's command structure. The harmonic interference is causing some kind of feedback loop in their network." Sarah watched as one of the massive enemy ships began to list to one side, its surface flickering between mechanical perfection and organic chaos. "All ships, focus fire on the disrupted vessels. If we can break their unity, we can save them." The battle raged for hours. The New Horizons, small and alone, danced between enemies that should have destroyed it in seconds. But the ship's chaotic tactics, enhanced by Zephyrian harmonic technology, proved impossible for the void swarm to counter. More importantly, the example of cooperation between two completely different species began to awaken something in the assimilated minds of the void-touched. They began to remember what it felt like to be individuals, to have thoughts and dreams that were uniquely their own. Victory and new beginnings. As the artificial sun of Aethros Prime set behind the geometric structures that had once seemed so threatening, Sarah watched those same structures beginning to change. The rigid angles were softening, becoming more organic. The cold metal was warming, beginning to show signs of the individual personalities that had been trapped within. "Captain," Harmony Singer Lyrian said, her form now blazing with joy and renewed health, "you have given us more than our lives. You have given us back our song." Around them, Zephyrians who had been void-touched were slowly returning to their true forms. The process was painful and slow, but Dr. Wong's medical expertise combined with Zephyrian harmonic healing was proving effective. "What will happen to the void swarm's network?" Sarah asked. "It's transforming," Lyrian replied. Without the artificial unity that held it together, it's becoming what it was originally designed to be, a system for promoting cooperation and understanding between different species. The geometric structures are already beginning to serve as communication relays and meeting places rather than weapons of assimilation. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm picking up signals from across the galaxy. Word is spreading about what happened here. Other species are. They're talking about humanity." Sarah felt a chill of anticipation. What are they saying? They're saying that the humans are the ones who stood with the forgotten, who fought for the dying, who chose chaos over unity and diversity over conformity. They're saying they want to meet us. The galaxy takes notice. In the weeks that followed, as the New Horizons helped coordinate the reconstruction of Zephyrian civilization and the rehabilitation of former void-touched, the galaxy indeed took notice. The Galactic Council, which had never acknowledged humanity's existence, sent official diplomatic overtures. Trade networks that had been closed to young species suddenly opened their channels. Scientific exchanges began as civilizations that had survived for millions of years asked to learn from the chaotic ingenuity of human problem-solving. But perhaps most importantly, other species began to look at their own definitions of unity and cooperation. The lesson of Aetheros Prime, that true strength came from celebrating differences rather than enforcing sameness, began to spread throughout the galaxy. "You know," Sarah said to Lyrian as they stood together in the restored plaza where the New Horizons had first landed, "we came here to save your people, but I think you might have saved us too." Lyrian's form shimmered with harmonics of deep contentment. "How so, friend Sarah?" "You taught us that our chaos isn't a weakness to be overcome. It's our greatest strength. And you taught the galaxy that sometimes the newest voice in the choir can teach the oldest songs how to sing again. Above them, human ships and Zephyrian constructs work together to build something unprecedented. A joint research station where the chaotic creativity of humanity could blend with the harmonic precision of Zephyrian science. It was ugly and beautiful at the same time, perfectly imperfect, and it sang with a music that had never been heard before in the galaxy. The void swarm was gone, transformed into something benevolent. The Zephyrians were no longer alone, and humanity had found its place among the stars not as conquerors or supplicants, but as the species that chose to stand with the forgotten and fight for the right to be different. In the end, that made all the difference.